Welcome to KiwaniTalk. It's a public information program put together by people from the Dearborn Kiwanis Club, normally with help from students at Dearborn High, but since it's the middle of summer, we're here at my offices. My name's Gary Gardner. I'm your host for this episode of the longest running cable access television program in the entire world. We're very happy to be here. I'm very happy to have someone who is kind of close to me, because I've been told from time to time that I have a resemblance to Santa. And I take that on and I try to enjoy that, but we have someone here who actually lives that and does a much better job than I've ever could imagine of doing about being a Santa Claus in real life. We have with us Kenneth Isaacson, who is otherwise known as Kid Santa. Welcome to the program, Kenneth.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here, and truly, I've been playing Santa Claus at my kids' grade school for probably 25 years. I go over, I enjoy doing that, but there's more to Santa Claus than being the jolly guy wearing the red suit and the beard. You have done that, but before we get into the Kid Santa part, tell us a little bit about yourself. You kind of started growing up in this area. Tell us about your background.
21 years old. Grew up for the most part here in Dearborn Heights. I was born in Russia and immigrated to the United States. I was an orphan over there. Had a few years in foster care as a teenager, and after I got out of foster care, I went through both the EMS and fire academies as a young adult. It's rumored that I'm the first EMT in Michigan to become one while still in foster care. And I'm slated to start paramedic training in September. And then, of course, I run a 501c3, Kid Santa and Company. I'm Kid Santa. And just trying to make the world a better place.
So there's a contrast in your early life, growing up in a family in Dearborn Heights. What was Christmas like for you as a kid growing up, and how did it change when you went into the foster system?
Oh, well, growing up here in Dearborn Heights, I can remember my Christmases. I smile when I just think about it. We got all these big gifts under the tree. We went to Greenfield Village, went to Hines Park to see the holiday lights. We did, cookie competitions, and then change that into being in foster care. You're just trying to make it to the next hour in life. You don't really care about gifts.
And I'm going to guess that foster care is probably much different than what people's imagination of it is.
Take whatever you think about it and make it about 10 times worse. Foster care, it's supposed to remove children from abusive and neglectful situations, but it's the same, if not worse, than the situations than a lot of these kids originally came from.
And your recollection of people that you went through the system with, a lot of them didn't turn out as fine members of society. Tell us about that part of it.
I spent 7 months in a camp up north. It's not a summer camp, it's a camp. There used to be a juvenile detention camp shortly before I got there, and I spent 7 months in a cabin with 19 other teenagers, and today, well over half of them are either incarcerated for capital crimes, are homeless, or dead, and we haven't even been out of the system for 3 years. And it's such an opposite end of the spectrum. Some of the kids I was with were out taking people's lives, literally, and I was out there at the same time saving people's lives, in the ambulance and the fire engine. And
so how you grew up with this system, you got into the foster system, but then you found a way out of it, and how did they start to work your way out of the bad side of it towards the good side? What did you do?
I was lying in my bunk bed at the camp one night, and I just looked around, and I knew I was different. I've been told ever since I was a little kid, people are just like, Kenny, you're just different. I don't know how, you're just a different kid. And I want a better life for myself. I feel like if I put in the effort and I work hard, you deserve a better life. And I know what it's like to be scared and be vulnerable, and I want to be a change. For that. So I started working really hard, still in foster care, to try to lay a foundation for when I got out. And when I got discharged at 18 and a half, I really did hit the ground running. And I'm still am running to this day.
You told me a story that you were working at a halfway house or someplace, and you're working at Taco Bell, and you had some money around Christmas. What did you do with that?
Yeah, so I lived in a group home in Albion when I was 17, and the group home was a little bit less restrictive than the camp that I was at up north. I worked it out with the man that ran it, and he let me get a job, which was really beneficial to my own life later. But I didn't want to spend another Christmas in foster care due to a tragic occurrence the Christmas before. And I decided maybe I'd feel better if I could be a light to somebody else. So I took a month's worth of paychecks from that Taco Bell, went to the Dollar General that was located behind the Taco Bell in Albion, bought trinkets and stuffed animals and stuff, persuaded the neighbor next to the group home to take me to Jackson, to a homeless shelter on Christmas morning, and I spent my Christmas as a foster kid with homeless children.
And what was that experience like for you, contrasting to Dearborn Heights, great life, foster, or the foster system, bad life, and then you get to this new dynamic in the homeless shelter? And what was it like? What did you see in the faces of the people that you were this for adults, kids? Who were you trying to help out?
Both them and myself. I just wanted to be with somebody on Christmas, even if it was total strangers. And a lot of the adults were completely appalled. Me being in the system and living life out of my duffel bag, but yet still found it in himself to come out here and help people that are, homeless. It was my first exposure to the news and media outlets. That picture of me reading to the homeless children reached 26 states overnight. And I didn't think that what I did that day would lead to anything. It's kind of like helping a lady cross the street. You don't go and make a nonprofit out of that. You just help the lady cross the street. But
But you got a name from it. Someone who gave you? How did you get the name of Kid Santa?
The neighbor name was Tom Bennett. He's like, you're something, man. We should give you a little nickname, kind of like Spider-Man. And I'm like, what about like Santa Kid? I'm a kid and we're doing Santa stuff. And then he just switched it, so it became Kid Santa. I just took the words and Kid Santa instead of Santa Kid, and ever since then, I've just lived up to it. Kind of like Kid Rock or Kid Leroy or Kid Santa.
Yeah, well, I'm like grown-up Santa, but the EMT part of it, what was it? I have an idea in my head that because you want to give back to people, but what was it that brought you to decide, I want to be an EMT?
I come from a long family lineage of service to this country, mainly military. My mom didn't want me to go overseas, though. So, but being in the system, I know what it's like to be scared and vulnerable and praying and hoping your prayers are answered. And I know what it's like to not be answered. And while I can't go back and change my own life, I can be a difference for somebody else. So I became a first responder to really be the best part of somebody's worst day. When your mom's not breathing or you're drowning or all the different rescues that I've done, you are what somebody prays for in their worst times.
So what did you have to do? What kind of educational program did you get into to become an EMT and then a firefighter?
It's very demanding, EMT. You learn all kinds of everything from CPR to bleeding control to extrication. I wasn't a big fan of PT. It's kind of like phys ed in high school, only with people yelling at you and lots of push-ups and running. And the fire academy was brutal.
So where did you go to the EMT and fire academies?
I went through my EMT training at Kalamazoo Valley Community College in Kalamazoo.
Okay, and so just so people know, what does it take to qualify to get into an EMT program, and how do you finance that?
I went off grants from the state of Michigan for former foster kids that aged out of foster care, which they provide 2 years of free college after foster care. But you have to be 17 at the time of application, clean criminal record, you have to pass a medical clearance, you have to pass an interview process, and you have to have certain math, reading, and writing scores. And then you go through 32 weeks of training, and they washed out about half of my class. And you were either washed out or you just decided this isn't for me, and you dropped yourself from the course. It was very, very demanding. And a little bit similar on the fire side.
So when you get out, you get paid when you're in EMT school, or do you have to pay your finance your own way through room, board, and everything else?
At the time, when I was in EMT training, I was still in foster care, so I was still living in a group home in Kalamazoo that was preparing me for discharge from the system. But I was a bit ahead of the other kids there. A lot of the kids there were high school dropouts that had no direction in life, and here I was on my way to being a first responder while still in the system, which was something that was never heard of. The EMS program director at Kalamazoo Valley was like, I've never heard of someone like you. He checked I was like, I checked the rule book and it's completely legal, but you're the first I've ever heard of it. But I very driven, very self-motivated to be where you want to be in life.
So when you got out of the EMT program, where did you go then? Did you go to work? Did you go to the fire school? What happened then?
I started working with a private EMS agency that does rescue contracts with some of the communities out here. We had Highland Park, Hamtramck, Southgate, and a few others. And then they also did like inter-facility transfers, so like taking you from nursing home to your dialysis appointment or to your doctor's appointment. They're just ambulance transports.
So after doing that, did you decide what brought you into the firefighter realm?
Ultimately, my ultimate career goal is being a firefighter paramedic for a municipality. So I had to go through the fire academy. I always wanted to go on to fire academy. Even before I went to EMT training, I was just trying to figure out the sequence of training to go through. So I just went right from EMS right to fire, but it's really easy to get an EMT job first. But to get on most of the fire departments, you have to have both firefighter and EMT versus getting on one of the EMS agencies, you just have to have your EMT. So the training sequence just made sense to go through EMS first.
So you're working full-time and going to firefighter school too, or do you, as a firefighter school, a whole separate intense program?
No, I worked 4 night shifts a week on the ambulance, and then I had to do 3 days a week over at Schoolcraft College, and then 2 weekdays and then a Saturday, all-day Saturday. A lot of lectures, a lot of PT, more PT, and we had to do like practical drills like the burn chamber and SCBA stuff and extrication.
How long a program is that firefighter training?
It was another 32 weeks, just like EMT. People were washed out as well.
So in the meantime, at least 1, maybe 2 Christmases have come and gone. What happened to the Kid Santa after your first experience at the homeless shelter in Jackson?
So after I graduated high school, I left Albion. The state moved me to Kalamazoo, and I was working at a Taco Bell in Kalamazoo while going through EMT school. And I just did the same thing again, just at a children's hospital in Kalamazoo, and it was a small operation, just pocket change. And then once it became an EMT and started getting more career driven, the pandemic hit in 2020, changed the world. I graduated like roughly right at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was a whole new world. A lot of people lost their jobs. My family was heavily affected financially, and I realized that I can go to work and work a crazy amount of overtime. There was you could live. We have beds at these stations and kitchens and laundry facilities. You could live on station. I've spent up to 10 days on an EMS station. You can live there. If you can handle it. So it started out as like my neighbor couldn't afford groceries because she got furloughed, so I'd go buy groceries with my overtime salary, and then I realized like, holy cow, there's going to be a lot of families that are going to be struggling this holiday season. So I started saving up my overtime pay starting back from the spring of 2020, and when the holidays rolled around, I had about 10 grand out of my own service that I was going to donate to the community for the holidays, because I had the ability to do that. Not many people could. I really did risk my life for a lot of those, for the pay that I earned. I've been in a lot of really dicey calls, but it was worth it to make an impact on the ambulance and then do it in the community.
And how was the third year of your Kid Santa different from the first and second years, as far as where you went and what kind of level of giving you were participating with?
So I'm going to use my hand to kind of demonstrate. My first 2 years were like this, like really small, and then all of a sudden, like I went from helping like 6 kids to 500.
How did you
didn't even have the infrastructure set up?
How did you find the 500 kids? I'm sure this is not that hard to find, but how did you find them?
Not hard. I started out by making a Facebook post on one of the community forums, and I was just looking for a family to adopt. I was going to buy them their Christmas dinner and buy their kids gifts, and it was just going to be just from my family to yours. And it just I was able to take on a second family. Then other people chimed in, hey, we'll donate, we'll help you out. And then just, it slowly built momentum, kind of like a snowball rolling down the hill. It just, more people got involved, more people needed help, so more people got involved, and it just, and I ended up catching the eyes of some celebrities in New York and LA. And that was surreal.
And today's good news story epitomizes the true meaning of Christmas spirit. 19-year-old Kenny Isaacson, also known as Kid Santa, knows what it's like to spend Christmas alone. He took his personal experience to help hundreds of kids in Michigan. Say hello to Kenny. Kenny, welcome to the show, Kid Santa.
How are you, Kenny?
Hi.
Hi. Should we call you Kid or Kenny?
Call me anything you want, just not late for dinner.
Kenny, let me just say, you are truly, and what you're doing, it's so inspiring. And together, our partner, Blue Air, we would like to give you $3,000 towards helping with the kids and being Kid Santa this year and providing a few more extra toys for the children.
Well, I like to tell Blue Air that for the price of $1,000, we grant, well, each kid is about $50, so they just granted 60 kids a Christmas wish this year, so I appreciate it.
Great.
Bro, you are awesome. Thank you for coming on.
I was driving to work, and I heard myself being talked about on the radio station.
Wow.
I literally stopped my car, and I was like, this is my favorite morning show, and they're talking about me.
So how did, you had your money that you had put in, how did that, I'll call that a seed, how did that seed grow in that third year? What did it grow up to?
Well, with all the media coverage, there's a lot of media coverage, local news, everything from the high school newspaper to your regional TV outlets, all the way up to national talk shows. I ended up quadrupling Kid Santa's financial assets, which allowed us to help more people, which put our name out there even more, which more people were drawn in. It's just a cycle.
Now, I just heard you use this two-letter word a couple times, us. How has us grown from Kenneth Isaacson to us, Kid Santa, and the 501c3 organization that you have?
I feel like I've been a people magnet. You're the former Russian orphan, the former foster kid, the first responder that runs this charitable effort. Who doesn't want to get behind that? you know, he's our hometown hero. I've worked with all kinds of people, everything from the McDonald's manager to elected officials, just people just $5 to $500 from an afternoon to a whole season commitment. Just people just drawn to me, and I fit them in any way that I can because, you know, we're a community helping a community.
So we're going to come back to this in a minute, but people are out there saying, how do I help Kid Santa? What's your website? What's your social media?
Our website is kidsanta.org. You could, everything from just our story to some of the latest situations we've been involved in, and then you can donate or you can volunteer. All help is needed, no matter what it is. We find a way to fit everybody in. And then we have Facebook, Kid Santa and Company, YouTube, Kid Santa and Company, TikTok, Twitter. We actually have a whole volunteer who's just responsible just for the public relations aspect.
So at some point you said, this is getting not out of control, but getting to be really big. When did you decide to form the 501c3, and how's that changed the way you have to operate and everything else?
Christmas of 2021, I had volunteers on their second season now, and now we're covering the whole state, both peninsulas, and people are just like, Kenny, there's potential in this. This is like an untapped oil field. So we wanted, in order to be able, a lot of businesses said that they wanted to donate, but they couldn't corporately because we weren't a 501c3. So in getting the 501c3, it allowed us to really tap into the corporate side. A lot of these big brand name, like retailers, restaurants, all different kinds of corporations.
If you want to mention some, that's, you know, if there's a particular one or somebody, you're going to forget some, of course, but if you want to mention any, go ahead.
Oh, Dollar General.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
They've been there from the start.
They were there, and yep.
They didn't know it, but they were there.
I got a phone call from their corporate office in Tennessee. That was big. And then Jersey Mike's. I'm going to be on one of their commercials throughout the summer. They flew in a film crew from Washington, D.C., and it was... My mom was just in shock that there was an entire professional TV camera crew, an 8-man crew, in our house.
Wow.
And Jersey Mike's has been a huge supporter. Walmart, Target.
All those corporations. And so you have this corporation now. What is your role, and what kind of assistance do you have management-wise to run this? Treasurer, secretary, fundraiser, the social media? What do you have?
Well, I'm the president, naturally.
Yeah.
I self-appointed.
There you go. Well, that's what gets for being the starter. You can be whatever you want. So.
Yeah, I'm president, founder, and Kid Santa himself. We have a vice president, and she is like my body double. We had to set that up because when I was a first responder, it's very dangerous, and she had to be able to take over immediately should something happen to me out there. Right. And then we have a treasurer. She's very active in Kiwanis. Yep. And we have a secretary, and then right now we're operating on a skeleton crew until the holiday season kind of rolls around, and that's when we're really going to need people for like wrapping and boxing and processing and everything like that. So
from a couple of paychecks at a Taco Bell to your EMT salary, what did it morph to in 2021? Did you get the 501c3 before 2021, or is it starting up now?
No, I got it a few days before my 21st birthday. So that's what I got for my birthday, was this little box, and inside of it was my letter like, nice, you own a charity now.
Okay, and so what is your goal for 2022? What would you target? What do you think you can do? And
I feel like there are some areas that we fell short last year. It was our first time trying to take a whole state. So I really want to reinforce what we started last year and just really focus on Michigan for Michigan. We have a lot of little side projects that we're involved in. We did disaster relief twice now. The flooding in Dearborn Heights back in 2021 when we had those big floods here.
Right.
And then just recently, a few months ago, with the Gaylord tornado, where we took a whole box truck up there full of toys, and we replaced so many toys that were just obliterated by this storm, just blown apart.
So speaking of toys, do you have a stash somewhere?
Yep, we got a secret stockpile in the downriver area. It's top secret.
An undisclosed location. In the
Undisclosed location.
Concrete bunker.
We have to keep a standing stockpile for a few reasons. One, so we can rapidly deploy those to heavy disasters, and then also we help so many kids that any little disruption in the supply chain really trickles down to affect us. Like, we need about 500 boxes of Legos on a given year. The local Target doesn't have as many Legos as we need. It takes us like 5 or 6 Targets to get what we need. So we keep a little standing nest egg.
So if people want to help, we're down about our last 2 or 3 minutes, actually, for the whole show, unbelievably, but people want to help. What's the best way they can help? Financially, donation, volunteer-wise, in that order.
Everything, you can start at kidsanta.org. We have so many different ways you can volunteer your time. We have volunteers all over Michigan. And then we have an Amazon toy registry, so we place like the top 20 most commonly requested toys on there, and it ships directly to us, and then we store it downriver for the holiday season. We need lots of money for gas, money to keep these toys stored, money to move the toys all over Michigan in one night. And then business sponsorships, business partnerships. If you think that there's a way you can help out, just let us know. We'll try to fit it in.
And so truly, the name Kid Santa has, like I said at the beginning, you've way outdone my little being Santa Claus for a kindergarten at a primary school. How does it make you feel?
I've been recognized by the Michigan Association of Professional Santas as the youngest professional Santa in the state. My next closest competitor is in his 50s, and I'm 21.
But you look like more like a Santa's elf than a Santa.
Well, especially when I had like my fire gear on, like I'm a physically fit guy.
Right.
You know, I don't have like the cookie gut and the white, my clean shaved face and your military haircut.
Right.
And, it just, for example, with the Gaylord tornado, all my friends were like, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible! Like a whole community was destroyed." And I was like, "Yeah," and I went up there and I did something about it. Right. So every time I heard about the tornado, I was like, "Yep," and I went up there with 10 grand worth of toys and I did something about it, and that was just the coolest feeling.
Well, Kenneth Isaacson, Kid Santa, thank you for your service in many, many ways. And
thank you.
Get kidsanta.org.
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 Yes, sir.
Don't forget to donate, because even though we're in the middle of summer now, the need is all year, and Kid Santa here, he's got the right idea. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Gary Gardner. See you next time. Bye-bye.